I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just
got it.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Morris?
Oh, my heart.
Happy 20th anniversary.
My heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? John.
And dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
the doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul, baby. Today has got to be the most special show ever. Why? Because the man who introduced me to radio around 1980 is on the line with us. And without further ado, we're going to go right to him. Good morning, brother. Baba Charlie Duggar. How are you today?
Fine. How you doing today, sir?
Oh, we're blessed by the best. Let me ask you, when did you first go on WEAA?
I forget the year. The year the EAA first started, Kwesi Mfume was, working with Larry Dean, and they were coordinating programs to put on the air. And Kwesi had seen us. I have a nonprofit group. At that time, I wasn't, I didn't have the 501c3 status, but it was called The People, and we would do a lot of street theater. So while Kwesi was a student at Baltimore City Community College, he would have us come up sometimes and do presentations. And so he liked what we were doing. So Wusu Ben Daly, Paul Spencer Williams, and I started a program called Voices and Choices in Ebony the same year that Dr. Jesse McDade Bay. A whole lot of us were starting. Murray Carter Smith and other ones of us were starting. We were the initial programs. Ours was called Voices and Choices in Ebony.
So you are part of the original programming at WEAA.
Yes, sir.
Now, you said at the time, Kwesi was a student at Baltimore City Community College?
No, not at that time. I'm sorry. I was talking to you. No, he had seen us previously because I think he was the student government president there years earlier. But so when he, became into that position at Morgan State University, then he thought of us, Wusu, Spencer, and myself about coming on with the program. I was, a teacher, so my focus, and Wusu was a teacher also, that we would bring young people on, and that was always our focus. Even when I later moved from EAA, they stopped some of our programs, and we went to WEBB with Sister Dorothy Brunson, a beautiful experience.
Wow. Well, one of your supporters just made a comment, Darius George Hall.
Mm-hmm.
He said, my man Charlie Duggar, I supported him when he ran for mayor of Baltimore. So you might as well put it out there. You ran for mayor. When did you run for mayor? You remember?
Yeah, I ran for mayor twice, Brother Donnie. I ran in 1987, and I ran again 12 years later in 1999. Both times my thrust was the police and education. For a long time, I've pushed for a civilian review board of the Baltimore City Police Department with subpoena powers. But I would always say, Brother Donnie, not only must we police the police, we must police ourselves. And I think that's really our dilemma right now. We are not policing ourselves very well at all. We want to be the victim, but we also have to realize we also are the assailant. We are two in one, and we got to come out of this. And then with education, I taught for 46 years. I stopped in 2018, English teacher in middle and high schools throughout Baltimore City schools. And, you saw the erosion after time. Good morning, sir. After time, my observation was there were so many unloved, unsupervised, and angry young people. And it was hard to get the administrations to do more of the various schools to do more meaningful, positive things because see what we started to do, and particularly my latter time in teaching, was we allowed them to just do testing. All they did, Brother Donnie, was testing. We didn't teach a body of knowledge. They stopped. I'm an English teacher. They stopped teaching grammar 25, 30 years ago. Then they stopped. We've seen the cursive writing. They start, the game like when you're young, take away, and they kept taking away substantive things, and we have what we see today.
When I think of you, Charlie, there's a phrase that comes to mind. Mr. Duggar, 30 seconds. 30 seconds, Mr. Duggar. Where would they say that at, Mr. Duggar?
That would be at the school board, sir. For years, I decided that I would go to the school board and speak, and you had to get over to East North Avenue by 4:30 to sign up, and then 2 hours later, at least 2 hours, sometimes it was longer than that. You might even wait three hours or more before you were allowed to speak, and they gave you 3 minutes. But they would each time tell you when your time was getting lower and lower, and I would often ask them, this is a school board hearing, but are you really hearing or listening to us? Because what I began to see happen, Donnie, was less people would come because they didn't take, not the people that wanted to speak, but the board members. I see this guy, Aniban Basu. He has all this to say now in the city about economics and the like. He was on the school board, and he said nothing. He would be very indifferent, in my opinion, to what was happening. And a couple of the other ones that got a whole lot to say now. You saw them in different lights, and the key is dealing with the whole child, sir. They had three things that helped to kill public education because that was their plan. They came up with middle school. Middle school was madness because again a big educational experience of takeaway. In middle school, they got rid of civics. Junior high, that was a big class. 8th grade civics. You learn your rights as a United States citizen. They took away, with middle school, they took away civics. They took away geographies. They took away meaningful physical education. They took away meaningful instruction in foreign language, as well as arts and music. They have done a great job of taking away. So, for example, we speak of obesity, but if you know anything about how they've done the curriculum, Brother Donnie, 9, 10, 11, and 12th grade, most high school students finish their physical education requirement in 9th grade. They take no PE, most of them, no gym in 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. So instead of competing, I can shoot better than you or beat you better than you can beat somebody. I can run up down the track better. I can climb a rope better. I can do a whole lot of meaningful things better than we could do at what we're seeing down today. We're seeing very shallow young people not doing very much at all, in terms of what they don't have any idea of their potential. Jerome Dyson Wright used to have a beautiful saying, if it is to be, then it is up to me. So it's just a question of us deciding, that we realize that our children are our future. So when they came up with middle school, then they came up with social promotion. Augusta Fell Savage Institute of the Visual Arts, part of the Holland Park building complex, wasn't the first school that socially promoted people. That was a system-wide national policy. And then the third thing they came up with, sir, was special ed. Here we went from 1954, they finally integrating the schools. About 20 years later, now black people have all these learning problems, all of a sudden. And then in two big categories of special ed that really jammed us up was disadvantage and handicap. So I think they almost probably look like they labeled everybody in Baltimore special ed. Why? Because then you can get the money. That was the whole purpose of social promotion. You know, with George Bush's Not One Child Left Behind, if you had too many failures, you had too many poorly attending students, you were considered a failing school. They could shut you down. So that's when they started whoring and pimping the children with fudging the rolls with attendance and test scores. Remember that big controversial case down in Atlanta? In fact, the sister who might be ready to indict Trump was the sister that took some of those black educators to court, and I think some of them did some time for, fraud. Then they came up, if you had too many fights in your school or too many suspensions, you were a dangerous school. So therefore, schools began to ignore bad behaving children because they didn't want to be shut down. So we've been put in this predicament where they want to badmouth public schools, which I think is a great education. A great education. We just have to, taking it back to the police and ourselves, demand that our children behave, and we can make it work. But, we have to understand that a majority black city, Baltimore, Maryland, should and must do better by its young people because they are our future, sir.
Wow. I don't even know where to go from there. Okay. So when I was a teenager, you would take us on the green tattered school bus and we would go to the prisons. Let me also say, you introduced me to some Swahili back then. And one thing I remember was Harambe, all pulled together. You would do
Yes, sir.
a Harambe splash party. We do a splash party out at Park Pool. But
Yes,
you
sir.
also did a Harambe. Didn't the trip to Haiti, wasn't that called Harambe too? Harambe boat ride?
No, that was something else. We did 10 years of a Harambe boat ride. I had lived in Haiti for 8 months, taught English there. And then for 5 years, I would take people there, but we would, fly by plane. But we did for 10 years on the port welcome, the Harambe boat ride. And sometimes it looked like we might have had more performers than we had passengers, but we would have a wonderful time, sir, on all three decks. In fact, when they were selling the port welcome, I was trying to get brothers and sisters to buy it, but we couldn't do that. But we had 10 years of that. And then I did 25 years of Harambe splash party, all put together splash party at Druid Hill Park Pool, 25 straight years. And then when I tried to do it for the 26th year, they had brought in a new head of Wrecking Parks and they said we couldn't do it anymore. And that was very disappointing because even hearing the mayor talk about he's going to do pool parties this present summer, and then for him not to have had Clifton Park ready to be open, or Patterson Park still isn't open, or nor the one in down the slide in Cherry Hill, that's unconscionable. I mean, not far from where we are, Donnie, down at Saratoga and Schroeder, there's a wonderful pool and a wonderful day camp setting, I would call it, because I'm a camp man. And the water hadn't been in that pool for a couple of years. I mean, the way they run the city is really inexcusable, sir, because, it doesn't take much to really, if you come with inspiration and dedication, you have the children. My older brother, Melton, has sold New York Life for 50 years, and 10 years prior to that, he taught school. So, he's 80 now. And he has a quote in his office I like, Brother Donnie. I aspire to inspire until I expire. And I think that's how we have to look at it. I mean, most of us have really been touched by people in our lives, be it our parents or, significant others in our families or community. And we must get our young people to choose more positive frames of reference, as they evolve throughout life. And then they won't be all this confusion. So, it's just like Samuel Yet when he wrote that incredibly powerful book called The Choice, The Issue of Black Survival in America. We do have choices as people, and we just have to make better choices, and we can.
Well, I wanted to tell you that when we first started this news website, Be More News, we started having business events, and I don't know if I ever told you, but they were called the Harambe Dinner Club, and it wasn't till it took some time for me to remember where I got the term Harambe from.
Mm-hmm.
But that Harambe Dinner Club is now turned into the Joe Mann's Black Wall Street Awards, where we give away those awards. So that's one thing I wanted to tell you. Another thing is in my book, I Am Black Wall Street. Did I give you a copy?
I'm not sure. I hate to be vague,
Okay,
because I know
okay.
you shared quite a few things with me. I'm not as organized at times as I should be,
Oh,
sir.
oh, I understand that. Well, I'm gonna make sure I give you this copy right here.
All
But
right, sir.
this is a book about not just Tulsa's Black Wall Street, but of the many freedom colonies, the many maroon colonies around the world. And again,
Mm.
I have to credit you because when you were doing the trips to Haiti, I had no idea of how significant Haiti is.
Oh,
So
yes.
for those watching, can you tell how and why Haiti is so significant to the Black diaspora?
Yes, sir. January 1, 1804, if I'm not mistaken, Haiti became the first independent black nation in the Western Hemisphere. And they took very seriously, when the French were talking about in the French Revolution in the 1790s, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Haiti was one of the most productive colonial possessions that the Europeans had. Uh, and they went from being I think initially it was San Domingue, uh,
Yep.
because it was controlled by the Spanish, but then the whole island was controlled by the Spanish, and then the French with their pirates, began to come in, and as time went on, then the French had taken over the island, and
But so it's two
the
different
Haitians
sides,
would
right?
never,
It's two
sir.
it's two different sides, right? Dominican
Now, yeah,
Republic.
yes, in two different sides because as time went on, the Spanish side that we know it today as the Dominican Republic, which is far more productive right now than the French side, which is the island of, well, both of them on the same island, but Haiti. But Haiti was never forgiven, brother Donnie, for having the nerve when under the motivation of people like Bookman and Mackendal, and then of course Henri Christophe, who just motivated the not I mean I'm sorry before Henri Christophe, Toussaint Louverture, or Louverture means the opener, and he was a common man who motivated the people and became so feared by the French they put him in a prison in the mountainous part of France, if I'm not mistaken, and he died there. But Napoleon wasn't going to have it. He sent we are told, his brother-in-law General Leclerc and this big French army to Haiti to quell the savages, but it didn't work because the spirit of the Haitian people was incredible. I forget which one of the spiritual leaders, was in Africa it's juju, and the islands is voodoo, and here in the continent we might call it hoodoo. Uh, but the one of the leaders, either Mackendal or Bookman, was being burned at the stake, and he could transform himself. And he said he left being burned at the stake and transformed himself to a mosquito and flew away. And it is said that that was one of the main ways that the Haitians defeated the French was through the mosquito, as well as using their machetes, their pitchforks, and whatever they had. But the white man could not handle the climate, could not could not handle the climate of the island, or the ferocity, and the ferocious nature of the freedom fighters there. And Haiti reminds me of Marilyn Mosby, because just like they could never forgive Marilyn Mosby for having the nerve to prosecute those 6 policemen for killing Freddie Gray. They never have forgiven her, despite anything else she's done. So same thing with Haiti. They have never, the white world has never forgiven Haitians for the nerve to overthrow the yoke of racism and wickedness that had been put upon them. And, even in recent years, when Jean Paul Aristide became the president on 2 different occasions, it was the American government that got rid of him. You follow me? Because they don't want, just like in our communities, they don't want us to be successful. We have purposely been flooded with drugs and guns. Baltimore. Baltimore had one of the best public school systems, best public libraries, and the best public recreation systems in the country. Remember when I was just coming back from Howard University and started teaching here, you had countries from around the world would come in and look at Baltimore's model for education, recreation, and library services. I mean, that's known. So how did we all of a sudden become such one of the most crime infested and drug infested places. I remember one time when I was running for mayor and I'm on the radio. Okay, I'm on the radio. Yes, sir. That has become, and she said, well, what, 1 out of every 10 Baltimoreans is a drug addict. I said, how can you say that, miss? I mean, unless we know or want this. But that was the kind of, we get all this statistics, all this data, constantly bad mouthing us. Like in the Wiz, remember Eveline, the wicked witch said, nobody bring me no more bad news. All they do is give us bad news, Brother Donnie. But we know that the good news is that we love and direct our children. We're going to come out of this and we're going to be better, because we have withstood the wickedness, that we are constantly bombarded with. So, but Haiti is phenomenal. I took groups of people there for 5 or 6 years afterwards, sir. The citadel that Henri Christophe built in the north, thinking that the French might come back one day because Louverture was killed, and then Jean-Jacques Dessalines became the first emperor of Haiti, but then he was wound up being killed. They had to infighting because, see, one of the problems, just like we see here, the affluent Haitians didn't like the masses of the people. Even when I would take groups of people there, you saw that standoffishness. Just like some of us in Baltimore, we have not bonded with all of our fellow brothers and sisters like we could or should. And so, we have what we have.
Is that why you would have us go to the prisons and speak to the inmates? We do art programs, we do poetry, we do songs, we do music for the inmates.
Well, that was part of it, Brother Donnie. But also what happened was, as I said, we did street theater. So we were I would go even to the Left Bank Jazz Society. That was a great experience. And Pharaoh Sanders, who passed within the last year or so, beautiful saxophonist and musical creator and innovator. He let us perform during the intermission at the Left Bank Jazz Society, and so did Les McCann. Pharaoh even let me do it one time when he was in Harlem, and we were up in New York, Brother Cocky, Brother Stanley, a couple other ones of us. So brother named Leon Manker, who was with the Left Bank Jazz Society and did prison work, asked us, could we come over into the Maryland Penitentiary and do a program? And I said yes, and that's where I first met Marshall Eddie Conway. That's where I first met a brother named Michael Austin. Both of those brothers spent incredible amounts of time and they were innocent men. So I got to, be involved in prison work in that way by coming in. So before I was even taking basketball teams, we were taking poets and drummers into the prison. And we did that for a long time, but then they got rid of the VACs, the volunteer activity coordinators. I mean, the prisons have done a lot to undermine what at one time, I mean, men, like Eddie would always say, Eddie Conway said, people can't, Charlie, they don't do the time. They must learn to use their time. So he was a great motivator and inspiration to a lot of brothers. Even later on when I don't know if you ever went, when I would take students to a writers club that Eddie had set up at the Maryland House of Correction then. I mean, it was very, very thorough, man. Very thorough. So, but that's what that was, brother. Donnie and then see, I had the teams also that I would take into prisons. We also played BNBL, Baltimore Neighborhood Basketball League. And before that, brother Vernon Walsh had an organization called Project Survival, which was a fine basketball program for young people, young men mainly.
Wow. So where's your book at, Charlie?
Still in my head. I have parts of it written down. The way I started Marcus Garvey Day back in, this will be our 53rd year. I was living on Gilmore Street, 608 Gilmore Street. And I would have a lot of social activities, because we were trying to motivate more of us, to do more. Like Gil Scott Heron has a beautiful quote, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something, trying to encourage people to find there's something that they can do. And so I would hand out pieces of paper like, when Superfly first came out, the movie, I didn't know what it was going to be about. At one point, I thought it was going to be like Mighty Mouse, the animation of just showing, Black people, overcoming adversity into the community. And so when we saw what it was, I said, oh, man, this is rough, because it was negative, but at the same time, the music was so on time that, it could, like a lot of these Black exploitative movies that came out, they had good music, but the content and the substance left a lot to be desired. I say that because at the end of Superfly, if it was real, there, and he could have talked all he wanted, telling the the big white higher ups that if you expose me, I got all these things on you, and it's going to be exposed to the general public. And at the very end, the white man would have said, "Yeah, nigga, right," and still blowing his head off. In my opinion, that would have been more of how it is. Thank you. That would be more how it is, rather than glamorizing. Because when I saw the movie, people stood up and cheered when Priest, the Ryan O'Neal character, uh, Ron O'Neal character rather, you know, uh, you know, talk to a little tough talk to the police. So I think we have to understand that if white people, we are told, are what 10, no more than 13% of the world's population. So for them to maintain dominance, even though we know we see worldwide white male domination, white male supremacy is dying, and they are scared. The wickedness, the whining, the weakness, of Donald Trump is indicative of how a lot of them, we're told what, by 2050, that majority of America's population will be people of color. And they have a problem with that. See, but what is the most ready solution for white male supremacy is for them to realize that it's not their world and they must share. It's
Okay,
easier said than done, but it's that simple.
let me jump in for a minute. I want you to sip on some of that cold water.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the people of Baltimore, we thank you, Baba Charlie, for all that you have exposed us to. I think of Brother Cocky. I have artwork on my wall. I remember the many calendars that you and Cocky put together, produce.
Yes,
every
sir.
year, we look forward to those calendars. We look forward to the splash parties. We look forward to learning about Haiti, and I've since learned that Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Henry Christophe,
Mm-hmm.
the freedom fighters, that there were so many others. There was
Yes.
King Bayano, King Miguel in places like Panama, in
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela. We don't know this, but we had black freedom fighters all over the Western Hemisphere. Down in Brazil, they had Zumbi. Now, in the end, Zumbi was beheaded, but Zumbi, Z-U-M-B-I, is a national hero. And so thank you for lifting up our perspective. We know that there are 40 million blacks in America, but how many of us know that we have 110 million brothers and sisters in Brazil?
Beautiful.
They speak Portuguese. In other Latin American countries, they speak Spanish. But we are global. I remember a young man told me, Brother Charlie, he went to the airport one of his first times, and he said, "Man, the world is majority white." I said, "Man, you have lost your damn mind." I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Because in the airport, everybody's white." I said, "Well, that's not representative of the world. There are a billion people in Africa. There are over a billion Africans. The world is full of people of color, but that's why I do media. And I have to thank you for giving me some of my first shots on the radio, because I'm still there today. And wherever I go, you will go. And I'm proud that you're learning technology." My godbrother too, Kevia Fernando Elliott, Bishop Elliott.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
About your days at Forest Park.
Forest Park, right. Yes, sir.
What schools do you recall teaching at?
Well, I did my first 9 years at Forest Park. That was wonderful because the motto across the threshold when you came in the old building was "Enter to learn, go forth to serve." And it was beautiful. At that time, English teachers, well, most teachers, I had 5 classes, 35 students in a class. But you might say, "Oh my goodness, that's incredible." But because the young people came to learn, behavior wasn't a problem for the most part. It really wasn't, And you had the support system of the administration and the parents, and you had an active PTA, so things were much better. But I left Forest Park, and that's when I went to Haiti. I wanted to go on a sabbatical, but it wound up because my stepmother, I've been able to get the green bus and a whole lot of things I've done because I would go to the credit union, the MECU, and that's how I was able to do the splash parties, the boat, all those things, borrowed on my own money. Because people say, "Charlie, I like what you're doing, Doug, that's okay." But a lot of times, you know, it's lip service, you know, and they might come and support, but at times they did not. And so I was able to, through, you know, the credit union, being able to, you know, to do the different activities that we could, you know, then get more people to realize we can do this. We can do this. You follow me? I'm down in I went down in Brooklyn last week, brother Donnie. I was able, one of the ball players that used to play with the at my teams was called the Myrtle Avenue Crusaders, and then we changed our name to the Arambe Brothers when we, you know, were going into the prisons. And so he's helping coordinate things in Brooklyn and the Brooklyn homes. So I was able to go right in the area. I had brother Jackie Blake. He was sitting on the tailgate of my truck on saxophone, and brother Isaac Bird on drums, and I was talking and doing some singing and just trying to motivate the people. People, you know, I knocked on doors to get a chair for the drummer, and people were very receptive. But we were told that a lot of the people there in that immediate area around Gretna Circle were very leery, even afraid of coming out of their homes. And so we tried our best to inspire. You know, I gave 3 quotes I said very loudly. One is Kwame Nkrumah, the great leader of Ghana, the Pan-African great leader. The secret of life is to have no fear. I gave them the quote from Franklin Roosevelt during the Depression and coming into more economic prosperity in America. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And then from the book of John, the New Testament, perfect love casteth out fear. You know, we in a society that's all they do is push fear, And, you know, we knew that if you talked about Haiti, those black people were beyond fear as they wanted freedom, justice, and equality. That our people, be it Martin King or Malcolm, both only lived to be 39. We talk about them like they were old men, that they were beyond fear. You know, Marcus Garvey only lived to be 53, the brother we're honoring on August 19th. You know, he came in greatly enthusiastic about interacting with Booker T. Washington, his hero, because he had read Booker T's Up from Slavery. But when he came here, he found out that, you know, Booker T had passed. But rather than him, you know, pass on into cynicism or sarcasm or indifference, he decided, I'm going to carry on the teachings, and started the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Until this day, Brother Donnie, it's one of the largest, not the largest mass movement organization of black people, you know, and he was serious. You know, he was serious. And, you know, that was one of the things, taking it back to Superfly, when Curtis Mayfield had the long version of Freddie's Dead. At the very end, he had a line. He said, ain't nobody serious, and that makes me furious. And we just had to go back to being serious. I mean, and then, you know, and the white majority culture here has done its very best to have us not be serious. You follow me? I mean,
They still pick our heroes for us. You
yes,
think?
sir. Yes, sir.
They want to pick the buffoons.
Yes, sir.
They don't
Yes,
want to
sir.
pick the serious leaders. They want to push entertainment on us.
Yes, sir.
So that we get distracted and we're more focused on laughing and dancing.
Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, De Beers is in South Africa taking all the diamonds.
Yes, sir.
They killed Muammar Gaddafi, the head of state of Libya, the man who wanted to give Farrakhan $10 million, and the U.S. government said no.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to, we talked about Haiti. I remember going to Jamaica, and there's a difference between Jamaica and Haiti, although they're both beautiful countries with beautiful histories. But one similarity is, while Haiti had Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Henry Christophe, and I love the Citadel. God, I've seen pictures of it. I must go there one day.
Oh, yeah, incredible, sir. You wouldn't believe.
But Jamaica has a storied history of its own, except I think the most noted freedom fighter there was a woman, Nani the Maroon Queen. And the legend has it, the British soldiers went after her, they shot at her, and she flipped her backside around, and the bullets ricocheted back and knocked them down to the ground. So Marcus Messiah Garvey, born on August 17th, and this month, August, is known as National Black Business Month. Why are you so fascinated by Marcus Messiah Garvey?
That's a good question, Brother Donnie, because I'm a graduate of Howard University, came out in 1968. And far as I can recall, even after graduating, I had never heard of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I moved to 608 North Gilmore Street, and one of my neighbors around the corner was a beautiful brother named Kojo. I can't remember Brother Kojo's last name. He was with the Soul School and, very progressive thinking, positive thinking brothers. And he started talking about Marcus Garvey to me. And then he said, we ought to have something like that. Because what I was just starting to teach at Forest Park, my second year, and I would sit out on my steps on Gilmore sometime and see the same people. The drug madness was already prevalent. Ask, let's sit down, let's talk. And then I became very wonderful friends with a brother named Khalid Takuma, who had an African dance group. He was affiliated with the Soul School. And so he, with the way you see Moja dancers and drummers, then we wound up having a center called the Timbuktu Center on Emerson Avenue, later became, briefly for a time, the Al-Kabilon Center. But there was a lot of progressive thinking. This was before we had begun to be flooded nationally with drugs and guns. But in reading about Garvey and, how he kept inspiring us, see that's why I like that quote about aspire to inspire. He kept inspiring people, that we create our own army, that we create our own businesses, and then it was just wonderful to see somebody, like Aretha Franklin has a song, Don't Let Me Lose This Dream. Because of Booker T's death, Garvey didn't lose his dream of doing better. He was a printer, so he was very fortunate. He had done some traveling in South America and Central America. So he had, had seen, as I was on a WEAA with a brother on Brother Nati's program, the Caribbean Affair, last Saturday, and a Haitian brother who was one of the big leaders of the UNIA, he's based in Queens, New York, gave a wonderful history of Garvey and just telling us, so many wonderful things. And then we had our annual, and you've been before, our Motherhood and Womanhood and Malcolm X salute up at the Perry and Cumberland Wall of Pride and Respect. And the brother was saying, Brother Shambe with the Art Social Club, that Garvey was married here. So Baltimore has had quite a serious impact on a lot of people in the world.
Let's put this out there. Baltimore had the largest population.
All right, sir.
Baltimore had the largest population of free blacks prior to the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
No, but I know it's a powerful place, Brother Don, because look at the fact that we have the B&O Railroad. Here you have a city merging with a state. That's how powerful Baltimore must have been then, to create the first significant, but later going into a transcontinental railroad. So we are a serious place, and anything that's bad mouth, I think we were one of the centers of racial discrimination with housing, with the redlining. They really are afraid of Black Baltimore.
Well, let me give you some more history.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of Baltimore Mayor J. Barry Mahul?
No, sir.
He was mayor from 1907 to 1911. But I assure you, there's a part of the story you do know. So he was the mayor, and around that time, Roland Park was just being built. That was Baltimore's first suburban garden community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right up there adjacent to Hose Heights. You heard of Hose Heights?
Mm-hmm.
You heard of Hose Heights?
No, sir.
Okay, next door to Roland Park is a black community founded by a black man named Granderson Ho. So the white people in Roland Park did not want black people to move in. So they got Mayor J. Barry Mahul in 1910 to introduce this ordinance, which essentially said that blacks couldn't move into white neighborhoods and whites couldn't move into black neighborhoods. Now, it was illegal, but it was nonetheless instituted and replicated around the country. Did you know that blacks lived in Cross Keys?
One of the brother that I was saying was with me in Brooklyn playing the sax, he was telling me how his family owned land right there at Falls Road, where Western High School is.
Yes, there were blacks all up in there, but because so much of our history has been stripped away, we don't teach it. There was Morgan Park.
Yes.
There was also Wilson Park.
I remember hearing about that too. Yes, sir.
So let me go back to this mayor, J. Barry Mahul. Do you know who George McMecken was?
Not really, no, sir. I know
He was
of
a
him, but
black,
help me.
he was a black lawyer, and he used to put his foot in the hind parts of this racist mayor, J. Barry Mahul, who was known as the father of segregation. George McMecken, because you've been on McMecken Street a lot.
Oh, yes.
He was a black lawyer, and he had a brother-in-law named Ashby Hawkins. And they were two black lawyers who around 1910, they were putting foot in the white mayor and the white racist mayor's hind parts on a regular basis. So much that they named McMecken Street after George McMecken, a black lawyer. But I want to get back to Marcus Garvey. What's most fascinating about Marcus Garvey is that he comes from Jamaica. So he got a real thick Jamaican accent.
Yes, sir.
He's chocolate brown.
Yes, sir.
But nonetheless was able to organize the largest organization of black people in the world.
Yes, sir.
What does that say for tenacity? Because, you know, we standoffish. Oh, man, he got an old crazy accent. I can't understand. Despite all of that, he built a shipping line, Black Star. He had a newspaper. He connected black people from around the world. So tell us about Marcus Garvey.
Oh, it was incredible because, you know, a lot of us stop at television, but he had a greater vision. You know, he said Africa for Africans at home and abroad. He never made it to Africa, but he saw the wonder of our African heritage and culture. He said one God, one aim, one destiny, you know, saying that we must be focused. We must be focused. We're too fragmented. We see that even now with the, you know, we've gone from, if you don't mind, just a quick diversion, you know, we went from constantly fighting for our black rights to then the whites came up with women's rights in around, 1972, women were taking off their bras up in Times Square. And then we got caught up with homosexual rights. And now we have more about LBG, all the different letters. And then we have the transgender, but we never still have gotten human rights straight. You know, and I think we have to understand that this is a society of constantly divide and conquer. There are too many subgroups versus, you know, what is good versus evil, period, you know. And so Garvey was about that, you know, stressing that he liked to wear costumes, you know. So like on our flyer for Garvey Day, August 19th, he's looking like Napoleon, but he might have on his top hats. But he also saw how he could motivate people. But he was serious. That was the key. He was serious. And because he was serious, then the white majority culture, you know, saw him as public enemy number one. And, you know, with the trumped up charges and then summarily, you know, talking about mail fraud, how he's supposed to be getting money. And the same J. Edgar Hoover, brother Donnie, the same J. Edgar Hoover that went through Malcolm X's life and Martin Luther King Jr.'s life was just starting when Garvey was, you know, becoming our leader and hero. And so they, whatever they could do to undermine and supplant. So we're told that the ships that he bought, you know, they weren't what they, you know, they weren't up to speed. But how is he to know? You know, that's so much of America. You know, one of the biggest concepts in teaching English and literature is irony, the difference between appearance and reality. And we know in this society, that's why when the Native American tells us the white man speaks with forked tongue, we got to go beyond the grin and the shaking of the hands to what really substantively is being said or being done with us or for us, you know, and that becomes so Garvey was just so fascinating, you know, with how he could keep motivating and inspiring us. And then, you know, as time went on and learning more about him, happened to be over at Howard University, Julius Nyerere, the beautiful Pan-African leader of Tanzania, was speaking in Crampton Auditorium, and it was so crowded that year that, you know, you had the side place was Ira Aldridge Theater, which is right next to Crampton Auditorium. And I saw all these people outside, Donnie, surrounding this older sister. And that lady was Queen Mother Moore. I never heard of Queen Mother Moore, but I was fascinated, enthralled, hypnotized, you know, like the sister said, hypnotized. But she was that wonderful. So for years, brother Donnie, I would go to Harlem in New York, on Amsterdam, and bring Queen Mother Moore to Baltimore to be our uh, focal point of our annual Marcus Garvey days. And sometimes she would bring other positive New York brothers and sisters with her. It was wonderful. And Queen Mother Moore would say things that we made a record with her. And she had three quotes I'd like to share. One, she says that she had a song, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of infamy, of thee I sing, where my ancestors were hanged from trees for refusing to bend their knees." And then she went on. Then she had a second one, that master has mastered the master key. Instead of him destroying us, we will destroy ourselves. But we weren't headed for self-destruction like Chuck D and Public Enemy later sang about at the time when I first met her. But we can see that we really seem to be headed wanting to be self-destructive. Third thing she would say is that we as black people are suffering from a constipation of the brains and we need brain surgery. And she said, of course, that is education, a positive education. But it's been wonderful, brother Donnie, being receptive, to information. That's one thing we have to bring back to our people, a love of learning. I grew up right near where we are seated. I grew up in Myrtle and Lafayette in my grandfather's house. And he would always say, "Charlie, the more you learn, boy, the more you realize you don't know." And therefore, we have to be more receptive. All right, sir. More receptive about learning. I mean, and Garvey gave us that opportunity to learn more about the history of black people throughout the world. Yes, sir.
So answer me this. I've been talking about this a little lately about integration.
Yes,
is
sir.
it that integration killed us, or is it that after we've integrated and moved to Harford County, Baltimore County, Howard County, we just stopped coming back to Baltimore City? What happened to our communities? Because now you right here on Carlton Avenue right now. I'm sure you done seen some white people come through this block that 8 years ago you would not see.
Yes, sir.
Did integration kill us, or was it our failure to stay connected to Myrtle Avenue, Argyle Avenue, Shields Place? What happened?
Well, I think it was some of that, but I think it was, I think we have just gotten into white culture. I play on the word Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't think Sodom and Gomorrah could be much different from what we have now in white society. But I play on the word so dumb, go for more. Playing on Sodom and Gomorrah. But I think we have just, you know, we've this lady just came in, she's upset. But we've just, gained the world and lost our soul. I mean, I think that's a big part of it because, it was like when the 50th anniversary of the March a March on Washington, the the 50th anniversary on the March on Washington. We got better jobs, we got better education, but we also became white people. I think that we have, it's just like rap. I'm opposed to rap because just too much of this hip hop is like a deaf script. English teacher, drama is a story of life. It's not life, it's a story of life written to be acted out. And that's what we have. We have drama in our lives. We don't have substance in our lives now. We have a lot of shallowness, but that's how this society is. This society fosters, surface versus substance. And I think that's been a part of our undoing, sir. That we've allowed ourselves to, it's like Ziggy Marley when he had the album Tomorrow People, right? And he had the song, "Don't know your past, won't know your future." Hear me now. So our ancestors, our elders, I'm sure, are angry, appalled, feel ashamed the way that we have become. The white man has to show this is us. Well, we could also say, make a show and show all these negative things we are doing and say, this is not us, because we don't have a history of being cowardly. We had a group with John Lewis and other brother Stokely Carmichael and others had called SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. What have we done? We've gone, brother Donnie, to SLICK, SLICK.
So we've been talking to Brother Charlie I think we let me go get them going. So I don't even know how to do this. Hold tight. Yes. Oh, damn. Oh. Thank you. Okay, there you go, Brother Charlie. So we got
Yes,
about
sir.
8 minutes. For those that don't know, we are managing technology. We have the great Brother Charlie Duggar, and we're going to plug once and for all Marcus Garvey Day of Bargani. What's happening?
And
Okay,
James. Yes, sir.
53rd.
So we're doing our 53rd annual Marcus Garvey Day. I started with Brother Kojo back there, 53. This will be our 53rd year. Saturday, August 19th. We start with a parade at the Cary Cumberland Park. It used to be called Elwood Brown Memorial Playground, right up here, 1600 block of North Cary. And we form right between Police Western District has been great, Brother Donnie, in giving us the support uh, again this year. And so we close off. They're going to let us Cumberland Street between Cary and Pennsylvania be closed off as we start our route.
Tell them about that mural up there, Charlie. Pontella Mason, his spirit lives on.
Oh, yes, sir. But, you know, they've painted over that mural, though, right?
I know.
Yes, sir.
It took me a while. It took me a minute to accept it, but it's beautiful. And his wife signed off on it.
Yes, she did, Sister Deborah. Yes, sir. But there's it used to be Africa from west to east that Pontella Mason, his wife Deborah, and their children had created. And it's a site where we definitely need to have more things. And he had a whole lot of people. His centerpiece was Fannie Lou Hamer. Then Brother Ernest Shaw, who's done some incredibly wonderful murals, has painted over it. And his centerpiece is Colin Kaepernick. And the stand he's taken.
Would you
agree? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was a struggle. When I first heard about it, man, I got the war call. I went around there with spear in hand, like, what are y'all doing? I had my spear, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
Like, calm down. And Brother Ernest Shaw. Now, he was related to the Shaw, who was a art professor up at Coppin, to my understanding.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, so Marcus Garvey Day, that's coming up on the 19th. Now, his
Saturday, August 19th, and we march down Pennsylvania Avenue to Dauphin to Fremont, up Edmondson, all the way into the park, and we're there from noon till 7 in Harlem Park. And this will be our 53rd year. 52 of the 53 years we've done in Harlem Park. Only one year we did take it to Druid Hill Park, but we realized that Harlem Park was our best site. And we have the Harambe Trio, Jackie Blake on sax, William Goffigan on drums, and Derek Amin on piano. We might have a quartet. It might be a bass player. We have Brother Harry Warsaw, who says we might have up to 6 different gospel groups there. We have Brother Judah, who's going to bring us a reggae band as we close out. We have our annual Marcus Garvey Day relay, Marcus Garvey Day, quiz, history. We asking people to come and if they have messages to share, vendors, if they have, networking and they want to display what they have and sell. We have people also sharing, free things with us. We make free watermelon available, red, black, and green, and we want seeds in our watermelon. Yes, sir. But we just want to have a wonderful time once again, sir, honoring the teaching.
We put a phone number out here, 443.
443. Yes, sir. 443 742 5193. 443 742 5193. And I have a wonderful committee this year, Brother Donnie, that has worked wonderfully with me. In fact, we pressed the matter. I don't know if you had noticed, but the benches in Harlem Park look like either termites or rodents had eaten them all up. But anyway, we have all new benches in Harlem Park this year. That's great. So our next project is to get Ridgely's statue, the racist plantation owner whose statue is still standing tall above us in the Harlem Park. He's the same one that had the Hampton Mansion, and they talk about it with his slavery mindset.
Yeah. Tell him who Brother Cocky was. Sometimes his sister Wanda Draper watches our show. Let's put a plug in for Brother Cocky.
Yeah, her brother, right? Robert Cocky McQueen, one of my best friends. He died suddenly in 2018, but and he's a returned home Vietnam veteran and a self-taught artist. And we became great friends. And over 20 years ago, we started creating a calendar, first with Frank Palmer, now with Brother Paul Coates and his son Damani, and Cocky's sister Lenora. And I just was wonderful to see her yesterday. She's allowed me to keep doing the paintings. I mean, the calendars.
Don't you got a T-shirt on that Cocky made?
Yes, I do. Knowledge is power. Yes, sir.
Show us the T-shirt.
Say it again, sir.
Show us the T-shirt. Back the phone up.
Can you see it?
Yes, that's Brother Cocky's artwork. I'm looking at a W.E.B. Du Bois picture by Brother Cocky.
Yes, sir. And you know what's interesting, real fast, Brother Don, you mentioned W.B. Du Bois. See, that was part of our problem. Just like even today, you said what has happened to us because W.B. Du Bois couldn't get along with Booker T, right? Couldn't get along with Booker T because, Booker T said, cash your buckets down where you may. And the people trying to say he's Uncle Tom. No, he was saying from his perspective. He had gone from being a slave to being the president of Tuskegee. He wasn't a perfect black man, but he had a vision. And then, W.B. Du Bois talking about the talented 10th. And he was all right with the Crisis magazine and with NAACP, but I also was told they had a nice documentary about Ida B. Wells that Du Bois kept Ida B. Wells out because they didn't want a strong black woman in the NAACP, even though she was one of the people who spearheaded NAACP. And lo and behold, when Garvey comes, then Du Bois decides he's not going to get along with Garvey. Like you said, he was short, he was dark-skinned, Garvey was, right? He had a thick accent, he didn't have a college degree, you understand? But he was so serious, Brother Donnie, that he got the ears and hearts and minds and spirit of black people. You understand? And so that they began to focus upon him and his teachings and so forth, and then he began to inspire people worldwide, you see. But we got to stop this infighting. We spend too much time at each other than with each other, you see. And but Garvey was just so important with as he also told us, up you mighty race. That was the third quote I didn't get. Accomplish what you will. So we have that willpower, but we got to get up, like James Brown said, get on up. So we got to get on up. Homeboys got to go home. You hear the good news? Homeboy's going to go home and become home man. He's tired of chilling with the homies, He's got to be more productive. We got to tell homeboy that life goes too fast, and if you don't put anything in that BB, that beautiful brain, don't be out there begging about God get money for a chicken box and so on. So when you didn't try, you didn't make the kind of choices, but they're not too late to make. Use Marcus Garvey as an example. Man, come all the way from Jamaica, didn't become disillusioned, but became more focused than ever. Choose him. Choose a brother like Malcolm, who came from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X, Shabazz. Never stop. He said, if man doesn't, no, that was Dr. King, but Malcolm, when he tell you can't get a chicken from a duck's egg. So we can only be who we are and be proud of who we are. Then we got Michael King, who evolved and became Martin Luther King Jr. We've had constant examples, beautiful examples of people through transformation. As Sojourner Truth became who she was, as Almenta Ross became the beautiful Harriet Tubman. You follow me? So what is our excuse? God gives black people too many messengers, too many doers for us to act like we don't know what to do. That's why I said Gil Scott said, do something, But let's start doing more. Get in organizations and, begin to do more because our children deserve better than this.
That'll be the final word. Brother Charlie, we love you, and we will be there on the 19th. Wild Horses Can't Stop Me. And I'm going to make sure I stop by and say a poem. I promise you.
Beautiful. Looking forward, sir. And if you want to bring your portable piano, play a musical selection too.
How you know I got
Since
one?
you have all this talent. See, I don't know if your audience knows all your talents. Yes, sir.
To God be the glory. I share.
All right. Peace, sir.
Good morning, world.